Elon Musk has caused an earthquake. Hey guys, Matt Goodwin, welcome back to GBNews. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Now, Elon Musk has caused an earthquake by suggesting that at the next UK general election in 2029, the established parties, left and right, Labour and the Tories, will be, in his words, crushed at that next election. Now, what's he pointing to? Well, Elon Musk is pointing to the complete collapse of public support for Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who, of course, has only been in the job since July. But if you look at the polls, Keir Starmer's net ratings have collapsed to minus 38. So he is in what we call net negative territory, or what I like to call Prince Andrew territory. But anyway, it's not just about Starmer. If you take a step back and look at everybody in Britain's political class, including Kemi Badenoch, the new leader of the Conservative Party, she's also in net negative territory. Her first opinion poll rating is -5, meaning more people disapprove of Kemi Badenoch than approve. So there's no doubt that everybody in Britain's political class is remarkably unpopular, and that creates a lot of space for those new insurgents and disruptors like Nigel Farage and Reform, for example. But actually, I think there's a lot more going on here than Elon Musk is suggesting. Let me just give you a couple of points to support this idea that the established parties, the liberal consensus in this country, is about to be crushed at the next general election. One thing I would point to, which Elon Musk doesn't, is what we call volatility in UK politics. We've never had as many people switching their vote from one party to another party as we've had over the last 10 years. In fact, 60% of Brits have changed their vote. Some have gone Labour to Conservative, Conservative to Reform, Lib Dem to Labour, Labour to Green. And all of this is why you can go from a massive Conservative majority of 80 seats with Boris Johnson in 2019 to a massive Labour majority with Keir Starmer only 5 years later in 2024. And that's why I think you could just as easily go from a massive Labour majority in 2024 to a complete realignment in politics, a massive political earthquake again in 2029. Because without those tribal allegiances, my dad voted Labour and his dad voted Labour, without all of that kind of stuff, politics is so much more volatile, so much more fluid. So I'd be pointing at that. But, you know, the other thing I would point to, and this is after 20 years of researching these issues in the universities, is the rise of new issues. In particular, the rise of cultural issues like mass uncontrolled immigration, broken borders, the rise of radical violent Islamism, people's search for a sense of belonging, their search for a sense of identity, their worries about how their history and their values are being repudiated by much of the elite class. What I'm trying to say is that people don't only care about the economy in today's politics. They don't only want a sense of economic security from things like inflation, the cost of living crisis, an economy that doesn't work, where taxes are too high, where we don't have enough productivity and dynamism and entrepreneurial spirit. What I'm saying is people are also looking for cultural security. They want to live in a country with strong borders. They want to live in a country with much lower rates of migration, controlled migration, and migration that's high skill and from countries that are culturally similar or culturally compatible. They want to feel as though their identity, their history, their set of values, their way of life is being protected and being promoted so it can be passed on from one generation to the next. Now, the rise of these cultural issues really plays well to disruptors, to new insurgent parties like the Reform Party, because they're the ones who have been talking about the need to change the elite consensus in this country. If you want to control Britain's borders, for example, you can't do that unless we leave the European Convention on Human Rights, unless we reform and repeal things like the Human Rights Act, unless we have an active deterrent that actually works. We can't change the policy, what I would consider the extreme policy of mass immigration in this country, unless we dramatically lower all levels of net migration to the tens of thousands, if that, and ring-fencing migration for the National Health Service and migration that we actually need, because the evidence as to what's happening in Britain today shows, I would argue, that migration is taking more out of the economy than it's putting in. We've got lots of low skill, low wage migrants coming from outside Europe who are, as the Office for Budget Responsibility has shown us, a net fiscal cost on the economy. They're not driving up our GDP per capita. They're not driving up our productivity, our prosperity, our wealth creation. They're actually making it more difficult for us to generate those things in this country that we all love. So what am I saying is that the market for a new disruptor, a new party, a new movement is absolutely enormous. It's not only about the unpopularity of the political class, it's also about this volatile political environment where these new cultural issues matter just as much to voters as those economic issues in the past. So I think Elon Musk is right. I think the established political parties are in trouble. And don't forget that what happens in America tends to happen in Britain a few years later. Or as the old saying goes, when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. Now, I think Trump 2 is going to be really important. You're going to see the deporting of illegal migrants out of America. You're going to see the reconfiguration, the restructuring of the state as Trump takes on what he calls the deep state through his new Department for Government Efficiency. You're going to see all of Trump's policies be mainstreamed and become part of the fabric of American politics. And that will change politics here in Britain, because as we go into 2028 and 2029, it's going to be entirely normal to say, well, let's have a policy for deporting illegal migrants outside of Britain, like those people arriving on the small boats. Around 150,000 people have entered the country now illegally, as well as deporting foreign national offenders from our prisons, not to mention taking on woke ideology in the universities and other institutions. Donald Trump has said he's going to prioritize that, as well as getting rid of radical gender ideology. Trump has said he's going to root that out of the institutions, that we're not going to live in a world anymore where we're going to say to people that little boys can become little girls and little girls can become little boys. So what I'm saying to you is the proof of concept, the demonstration effect, is going to come from America, and that is going to directly feed into the political debates that we're having here in Europe, where many voters will be saying, well, if America can have these policies, if America can have this pushback, if America can have this counterculture, if America can take on the old failing elite class, then why can't we?
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain that you love, and for the values that you believe in. We are your fearless champions, but we need your support. From just £5 a month, you can make sure that your views are always heard. GB News is the only news channel with the courage to say what the silent majority are really thinking. If it matters to you, it matters to us. Join thousands of members and become part of the GB News community today. Go to gbnews.com/support.